Colleagues, I would like to ask everyone who is outside where the exposition is to come back to the hall. The second panel will be equally interesting to the first one, so we should pay our respect for the speakers. Before I start with the official part, I would like to welcome you on behalf of the organizations I represent. There are a lot of interesting presentations coming up, so please come back to the hall. A technical issue. Tomorrow, it would be good if the foreigners have their headsets. This concerns them too. Tomorrow, on the 9th of November, there is a trip organized. There are over 60 people who signed up, and we had to hire a larger bus. This bus cannot park in front of the hotel where most of the foreigners are accommodated. So the parking space of the bus will be in front of the building of the Bulgarian National Bank. You can see the photos on the screen. It is very close to Riva Hotel. All foreign guests who will be traveling after the trip tomorrow, if they want to leave for the airport, please take your suitcases with you in the morning. Your luggage will be on board the bus. The trip will end at 2 or 2:30 at the latest, again in front of the Bulgarian National Bank. So everyone will travel later can leave their luggage in the hotel. If not, please take your suitcases with you on the bus. So, I hope that everyone is clear with that. I can't see all people from abroad present here, but please tell your colleagues 9:30 in the morning, tomorrow morning, in front of the Bulgarian National Bank. There are photos. You can ask where the bank exactly is. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. Now, panel 2. In the previous panel, we saw the problems of two close infrastructure in terms of problems, Bulgaria and Austria. They are close also in terms of relief, landscape, and also customers, numbers of customers. We also heard interesting things from the European Railway Administration. Now there are several interesting reports concerning the national carrier of Bulgaria, the executive agency Railway Administration, and the only notified body so far, notified authority so far, TINSA. And colleagues from Italy, speakers from Italy. Of holding of Bulgaria State Railways Holding, BDZ.
Здравейте на всички. Първо искам да благодаря.
Hello everyone. Let me first thank the organizers for the invitation. To be part of this forum and also the opportunity to familiarize the audience with the current state of the holding and its perspectives. Excuse me for a second, all speakers in this session, please join me on stage. Mr. Tsankov, Mr. Kalin Mirchev, all speakers in this panel, please join me right here. Also the Italian representative, please. Mr. Bolli, I'm sorry. The BDZ Holding is a national railway company founded in 2002 under the auspices of the Ministry of Transport and Communications. The company is fully state-owned and provides and operates through its subsidiary companies, freight transport and passenger transport. The main purpose of the company is to ensure efficient and competitive railway transport of passengers and cargo. The strategic goals of the holding are modernization and renewal of the rolling stock. We have invested in locomotives and wagons to ensure the comfort of passengers. Also, digitalization of the processes, integrated information management systems, improvement of services. The highlight here is to increase the satisfaction of customers and better quality of services. Optimization of financial state, sale of non-operational assets and other initiatives to ensure the financial resources for investment. What is the current state as of today? There is significant growth of revenues compared to last year. The increase is by over 4 million BGN, mainly due to sale of non-operating assets as well as other assets. The operational expenses grew by 821,000 BGN, mainly because of increased expenditure for staff. The net financial result increased from 2.3 million BGN the profit of the company amounted to 2.3 million BGN, which is an improvement compared to last year. The main highlights of our operations: support to subsidiaries. The holding supports transport and freight, passenger and freight transport subsidiaries. The other highlight is sale of non-operating assets. The financial risks right now have to do with the insufficient funding of the company. We also have Ukrainians who are accommodated in our holiday facilities, and those facilities are not sufficiently funded. Also, the non-operating assets have not been fully sold, so this will reduce the expenditures, the revenues, sorry. We carry on with our efforts to restore our competitiveness and the competitiveness of the railway transport in Bulgaria by means of strategic management of assets, innovation, and customer-oriented services. BDZ Cargo, this is a subsidiary of the holding. It has a timeless license for transport of cargo. It functions through 4 key structural units in the country and is the main provider of transport services in the national and international freight transport. The strategic goals of the cargo subsidiary is to improve the quality of services and improvement of competitiveness, increase of the market share by more efficient exploitation of resources and increase in the cargo flow, modernization and digitalization of operational processes and communications with customers. In the first 9 months of the year, accounted for a 6% growth of revenues. The revenues amount to 103 million BGN. The operational expenditure increased by 5% and amount to slightly over 1 million BGN. In the past 9 months, a total 4.5 million tons of cargo was transported, which accounts for 7% increase compared to previous year, but still represents underperformance. The main challenges is that the company worked in a competitive environment and respectively strives to increase its market share. Right now, the market share of cargo is 39.5%, and with regard to freights, 41%. There is a 4% increase compared to the previous year, same period. BDZ Cargo managed to maintain its market position despite the difficulties, and it tries to improve its financial results and efficiency. Passenger transport subsidiary, the national operator for passenger transportation. As part of the holding, it plays a key role to ensure the domestic and international transport of passengers and tries to increase the satisfaction of clients. In the past 9 months, we have the following financial results. The revenues increased by 6% compared to 2023. Despite that, we still register underperformance. The expenditure increased by 6% too, and the main growth of 20% is due to increase of salaries, and this is linked to the increase of the minimum wage. 16,500,000 passengers were transported in the past 9 months. This is a decrease by 0.85% compared to the same period of last year. The underperformance accounts for 6.7%. Implementation of the schedule of train movement. 152,000 trains moved for the past 9 months. The average implementation of the schedule stands at 88.5%. The main goals of BDZ passenger transportation subsidiary is to increase the quality of services and improvement of efficiency. Improving the quality of services, as I said, and more rigid implementation of the schedule of train movement. Increase of the share of own revenues and increase in the number of passengers. Also improvement of the working conditions and career development opportunities for the staff. Passenger transportation carries on with its effort to improve the railway passenger transport in Bulgaria by implementing a process approach which has the goal to increase the efficiency and quality of services. Thank you for your attention. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
На всички е ясно как БДЖ работи в изключително
It's clear to all of us how BDZ Holding works in a very difficult environment, in a very complex legal environment with the fourth railway package and so on. So we do have hope that the holding will revive itself and will become the company it used to be. I will ask you for a change in the agenda. Mr. Drumev has an important meeting later today, so following his request, we'll now have different presentations so that Mr. Drumev can leave shortly. So I give the floor now for questions instead of later on during the Q&A session. Please ask Mr. Drumev for any questions you may have. I can't see any hands raised. I know that this forum is mainly focused on railway infrastructure. It's true, but the infrastructure without trains is really nothing. So, may I ask a question? An interesting question, I think. Does BDZ envisage supply of new locomotives, and will they be equipped with RMTS? Yes, the subsidiary company, BDZ Passenger Transportation, has signed a contract for the supply of 10 new locomotives. The first is expected to arrive as soon as this year, and the contract provides the opportunity for monitoring of this type of equipment. Any other questions?
Is BDZ planning to intensify the international passenger trains? Because at present there are rather not so many passenger trains crossing the borders. Is there a planning to improve this?
Yes, indeed. Right now the main traffic is domestic. Our international relations are mainly with neighboring countries. So we have lines leading to neighboring countries, and we are working on the lines connecting us with Istanbul. We have a direct line right now with Istanbul via Ruse and Bucharest. At this stage, BDZ does not have sufficient wagons allowing direct lines with the countries in Western Europe. Any other questions, please?
The microphone, please.
Yes, now we have interesting help us. My question, you said that there are not many train connections, passenger trains, and nothing, and nearly nothing to other European countries. What's the problem? Do you have fair conditions in the competition with buses, with line buses? I see that there are many line buses. Maybe it's a problem that the fees of using tracks is too high. And one second question: there is no possibility for coming from Middle Europe to Bulgaria. There's only one train, 7 o'clock from over. Is it possible as a step that this regional train maybe goes 2 or 3 times between Craiova and Vidin to reach the network for Bulgaria, for example, for younger people who use Interrail and so on?
Към момента
Well, right now, the connections with neighboring countries, especially those via Turkey, are related with a lot of cross-border checks, customs checks, which delay the passengers, and this contributes to longer trips. All neighboring countries have infrastructure projects underway which play a role and have their influence on Bulgaria too, and this is negative. This influence is negative in terms of the quality of offered services. I mean here the connections with Romania. With Romania and Craiova, we used to have direct connections, and our subsidiary company is in contact with the neighboring administrations and with passengers operators to improve these connections or to relaunch them. But the speeds and the duration offered on the Romanian territory, for example, are non-attractive. This also concerns our domestic transport, because our subsidiary company is constantly studying the satisfaction of customers, and we circulate surveys, regular surveys among the users also of road transport. 61% of them share that, of the respondents share that the main advantage of road transport is the speed and the shorter duration of the trip. Thank you. Any other questions? I can't see any, so with your approval. No, there is a question actually.
Аз съм от Сърбия. Преди 20 години
In Dimitrovgrad, and we started with a joint border control of the passenger trains. Currently, Serbia is also reconstructing the line from Niš to Dimitrovgrad. So my question is, do you plan to bring back the joint border crossing? Is there plans for that in the near future? Thank you.
Просто не разбрах за коя връзка става въпрос.
For which connection? According the international agreement, the common station is Dimitrovgrad, and all our cargo services work with all operators, both private and state, on the territory of Serbia and also all neighboring countries, and they for sure will support all these initiatives which will bring to increase of the cargo exchange between the countries, but we have this problem from Dimitrovgrad to Niš. It is clear that BDZ is a point of exclusive interest. So I don't see more questions. Let's thank again to Mr. Drumev and allow him to leave because he is busy. Thank you, Mr. Drumev. I also thank you. Good luck to the next lecturers. The next report is to Engineer Tsankov, which is Executive Director of the Executive Agency Railway Administration. The subject is strategy for the introduction of TSI in the Bulgarian railway system. Hello, dear colleagues. Thank you to the organizers of this good event for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here because I'm also a member of this society for many, many years, the Scientific and Technical Union. To see this good organization and this good hall, the subject, the topic I have in my capacity of executive director of the Agency for Railway Administration, which is the safety body for Bulgaria, and I will present the strategy for implementation of TSI in the Bulgarian railway system, or what we do and which we haven't implemented yet as it should be. I will start with what is TCI, the regulatory framework, the phases, and we will see where we are and where are the other EU member states. And finally, I will consider for our executive agency where it states in this process of activities. My first point, what is this TSI, Technical Specification for Interoperability, which define unified standards and processes to guarantee that in the EU there will be a single system without any borders and hinders for the railway services, so they can move freely on the territory of the whole EU. That's the goal, which is very difficult and in a way distant to achieve. However, it will bring to better compatibility and better quality of the railway services. The significance of the interoperability has a priority, especially for the railway transport, and Bulgaria as a part of the EU, should follow these requirements. Following these standards will increase the compatibility, the safety, the connectivity between the countries, and aims to single European railway area. TSIs are 12 in total. They are divided into structural substances and functional substances. The structural are for putting into service, and the functional are for checking the compliance. The fourth railway package from 2016 is the main pillar which increases the role of the ERA and the national bodies and gives them a new tasks in order to guarantee the European regulation framework. The main documents are the regulation of ERA, also the directive for safety and the directive for interoperability. Based on these main documents are built all other documents within this legislative framework. The Interoperability Directive defines which are the functional subsystems which are part from the railway system of the EU. I must underline here that the TSIs are obligatory for the engineers, especially for the Bulgarians. The applications are also mandatory. They are legally binding. Under the fourth railway package, ERA issues permissions for transport means, also a single certificate for safety, and takes decisions for improvement of the European system for management. This is all made in electronic by one point for all documents, and there the national safety bodies assist ERA in this activity. Each technical specification for interoperability is structured in one and the same way. It starts with introduction, where is defined the technical and geographical scope, definition of the subsystem and the ranges, substantial requirements, characteristic of the subsystems, also the interoperability elements, estimation of the compliance or availability, and all these TSIs have one and the same structure, so you can find very easily what you search for. The railway transport is complex systems, a lot of assets, terminals, transport means, all this should be harmonized in order to have a quality transport. Also, sometimes there are problems in definition of the data or parameters because some definitions are not very well understood and they are interpreted in a different way, which is a challenge which should be overcome together with all national rules and barriers which the states have up to now. So the strategy of the European Commission is for sustainable mobility and defines the direction for all modes of transport to be more ecological. The railway transport is very accessible, and it should be the backbone of the European transport, but it doesn't mean that we will have only trains That is why a multimodal approach should be implemented, which requires problem-free integration of all modes of transport, and this should be made with the digital technologies. The phases for implementation of TSIS in most member states, the train protection or the so-called automatic locomotive signaling is accepted as the most efficient measure for safety in the rail transport, avoiding all risks. These systems, however, are not operationally compatible, not interoperable. We have a project in this in Sofia, and we started a single European system called ERTMS, which consists of train protection, radio communication, and train work, automated train work, and this is a standard system for all member states. And it is mandatory, and it guarantees a high level of interoperability, safety, efficiency, and it is accepted in many countries all over the world. Here I have shown the share of lines which are equipped with these systems for trade protection in the different countries. You see that in Bulgaria it is 5%, for example, while Austria, for instance, has 100% of this system, and the challenge here is that it is easier for us Bulgarians because we not having this system, we will install directly, while they should upgrade their system. However, this is the safety level with this system for movement of trains. In this table are the latest amendments of TSIS. In 23 is the last amendment of all TSIS. And the regulation for CCS, it is quite new, and it replaced the old one. According to the European legislation, when a member state does not apply TCAS, it should notify the European Commission and European Agency, ERA, and you can see here that the levels of not implementing TSIS decrease in the years, and we expect more decrease in order to have a single European system. You can see according to the different interoperability TSIS, infrastructure, energy, safety, persons with reduced mobility, and control, command, and signaling. Implementing this system, trackside should replace the old systems. It is designed in such a way that to have the best results. So the long-term goal, which is in the new TEN-T regulation, all networks should be equipped with RTMS, and on the corridors up to 2020, the expanded network up to 2040. Here you can see the old corridors, but now we have new TEN-T regulation with new corridors. This is the RTMS equipment in our East European corridor. We have 16. You see our equipment in percentage as a length of the lines equipped with RTMS. We unfortunately have one of the last places, but we hope that we will speed up. You can see here the lengths of the lines and their equipment, because in our strategy we should always put also only level 2, which is the new level. RTMS trackside should not be exist if we don't have onboard equipment. We haven't implemented in Bulgaria onboard equipment. We have one locomotive which has some of the private carriers have, and in this table we show you what are the onboard equipments implemented in the other states. And we hope with the new programs, new projects, to implement the new onboard equipment for RTMS, which is interoperable, with the newest version of this equipment. ERA issues transport means permissions through the one-point desk. This is a table for the issued permissions for freight wagons, for locomotives, for passenger wagons, etc., for the different period of times. In Bulgaria, the RINF, the register, is implemented by the National Company for Railway Infrastructure. We are on one of the first places for introducing the data, which we have made up to 98%, which doesn't mean it is full data, but the regulation was amended, so this data should be reworked. The licenses for at national level are also important. Our agency prepares the licenses which the Minister of Transport issues. We have 3 licenses for passenger carriers and about 20 licenses for cargo carriers. The last part, or not the part before last, what is the role of the executive agency for railway administration for interoperability? We are the control body as a safety body. However, we have another functions like we are also body of the executive power, except we also control the regulation for the rights of the passengers, and we are also a regulatory body. And it is established by the Decree 167 of 2001. Our agency fulfills the functions of national safety body through the General Directorate for Railway Inspection. Regarding the interoperability, we issue permissions for putting into service of structural subsystems, and we provide supervision over the elements. We renewed the permissions, we supervise the infrastructure managers and enterprises. We check the applications, and we advise the Minister of the Transport for issuing the applications for according to the regulation of risk assessment. National strategies and interoperability plans. Where we are, we have a Prof strategy for implementation of TSIS up to 2030, and there we have a strategy for implementing of all TSIS. There are approved plans for implementing this specification. However, due to lack of financial means, these plans are delayed regarding the implementation. According to the requirements of the regulation for control, command, and signaling, a new plan for implementing of this TSI, control, command, and signaling, should be implemented. We have a delay about this plan. We are developing this plan now. There is a work group which right now develops such a plan for implementing of TSI CCS. Regarding persons with reduced mobility, PRM, the plan made in 2016, which should be renewed in every 5 years, we started a work for its upgrading. For the other plan, there is no requirement for renewal, but we will consider in the agency this plan, and we will upgrade them, of course, together with the National Company of Railway Infrastructure and the carriers. So this is from me. In order to avoid questions about the transport services, I can say this is a national safety body. We must have agreements for control and supervision of the transborder crossings. We have negotiations with Romania, with Greece. We have good connections with Turkey and all cross-border crossings. We have agreements how to move the trains through the borders. We do not have RTMS on the borders. That is why they exchange locomotives on the border stations. With Turkey, the difficulties are related to the repair works on Kapakule, which is a border station. However, we have a vision to make the transition crossing interoperable, because Turkey will implement RTMS on our border station we also have, and there is a project for doubling the line, because right now it is a single one. Thank you for your attention. Good luck and good health. Let's thank to Engineer Tsankov for his report. We will continue for the program. All questions to him and to the next lecturers should be made at the end, at the next Q&A session. Next lecturer is Mr. Kalin Mirchev, which is representative of the only notified body. He will represent his company, and also one problematic question about this interface in the TSI, which is very problematic for our services. Mr. Mirchev.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for giving me the floor. As you know, I'm Kalin Mirchev. I'm an expert in TINSA company. Today I will be speaking on behalf of the company, but Mrs. Markova will also have a presentation. Foreign guests who don't know her may later approach her for contact if they want to establish a contact with her. When I got the task about presenting the interoperability in Bulgaria, it took me some time to decide on what I could tell you in just a few slides, so that the theme is topical and at the same time accessible by wider audiences. That is why I decided to speak about the interface between a platform and train, because this is a more specific case, but based on this case you can draw your more general conclusions about interoperability application in our national network. In the beginning, I would like to say a few words about the company I represent. TINSA was established in 2010. Since 2012, we have permission by the Minister of Transport to carry out checks under the relevant directive and our ordinance. Being a notified body, the requirements for this changed, and this notification by the ministry was redirected to the Railway Administration, and there was a change in it that no bow should be also a D-bow. And TINSA had to receive an accreditation by the Bulgarian Accreditation Service. The accreditation scheme itself was developed by the organization of the notified bodies. Apart from NOBO, we have a number in 2387, and apart from NOBO, TINSA is also a DBO, as I said, for assessment for compliance with national rules. We are also an assessing body under Regulation 402. Mr. Tsankov already mentioned the risk assessment regulation. And this function also covers the so-called safety integrity level assessment. The scope of our certification as a NOBO is assessment of subsystems, applied both to tracks and trains. TINSA is also a full-fledged member of the Association of NOBOs. We are very active in this association. TINSA is highly represented in the management of NBRAN. Mrs. Markova is a Secretary General of the association, as you probably know. Member of NB Rail Association. Yeah, I have taken a few examples of our experience, a few projects. TINSA has taken part in almost all significant projects in one way or another, projects for checks. The first project evaluated for interoperability in Bulgaria by us was the Danube Bridge 2. The awarding authority was the infrastructure manager when it concerns subsystems. Apart from Bulgaria, throughout the years, our company gained experience also abroad with different partners under different projects. I have listed different countries in which we had different assessment projects. I remember the assessment in 2012 of Danube Bridge 2, and since then the assessment underwent considerable evolution because of coordination with the infrastructure manager. I would like to present briefly the stages during which any assessment goes through. On the top of the pyramid is the legal framework defining the requirements for interoperability, and also Directive 2016/797. It has been transposed into our Ordinance number 57 of 2004. When I noticed the topic of this event, I thought it was because of the celebration, the 20th anniversary. But under the directive, any check goes through the phases of overall design, production and final test. And the ultimate result is certificate for interoperability. It is accompanied by a technical file or dossier, and there is a declaration of conformity, which together with the technical dossier is meant for placing in service under the Railway Act. The assessment itself and the communication between the awarding authority and the contractor is done with the help of assessment tools. I have to say that this is an iteration process which almost never gets implemented from the very first attempt. Both processes should run in parallel, but there are cases when the assessment process itself starts after a project has advanced considerably and construction works are already present. You understand that there are risks of identifying a lot of non-conformities. But this is one of the lessons learned by our infrastructure manager. There is this trend to award a check whenever an investment project is at the phase of technical implementation, and this technical design should also be assessed. And an intermediary certificate should be also issued with regard to it. This is the better option than a no-go being included at an advanced stage. This also hides certain risks because under legislation about spatial planning and implementation of investment projects, there is a technical draft and a working draft, and if the no-go interferes at this stage, at the stage of idea project, then at the stage of a working project, the assessment may be influenced. And another risk is that if an investment interest is implemented, this sometimes requires a long period, and you never know what results could be produced after audits and what technical specifications will be required. The product of each stage of assessment is a report. The applicant could also request an intermediary report or certificate, the so-called ISV, but this makes sense only if the project is phased. And when two different no-goes are involved. One assessing the construction works and the other stages. But when the overall project is implemented under a single contract, the overall assessment uses a single no-go. and this ISV is then not really needed. In our practice shows that non-conformities could come up at the stage of construction works, and there are some findings that we have summarized as regular failures based on our experience. The root cause of the problems is most often discrepancies between national rules and TSIs, or the harmonized standards quoted in TSIs. The other key factor that I can point out to is that if national rules are missing in the specific area of implementation of TSIs, and let me direct your attention here to the fact that one option here is to change the national legal framework, but this is not an easy task at all. Any ordinance or regulation is difficult to change, and therefore a tool is used, order of the infrastructure manager, which is supported by a lot of engineering knowledge and justification. But the requirements of interoperability is a mandatory part of the overall project. And this order of the infrastructure manager provides a technical solution that is yet to be proved as a feasible option in the course of time. What the destiny of these orders would be is yet to see. Whether they would become a part of a larger regulatory change in the rules of investment projects, or whether they will remain at the level of orders, we'll see. So whenever we have an anniversary, I believe people should go back in time and also look to the future. Therefore, I showed developments in the infrastructure subsystem throughout the years. In the beginning, such TSIs were available only for high-speed lines in 2001. Then in 2008, it was replaced. In 2011, a TSI about conventional railways appeared. Then, by means of regulation 1300 of 2014, also high-speed trains were involved. Then we have the implementing regulations of 2019. And I borrowed this slide from a presentation of colleagues in ERA, dedicated to the latest revisions of TSIs. Any TSI is revised by means of working groups which are part of ERA, involving different stakeholders. So one of the aspects, or one of the tasks in the future revisions of infrastructure TSI is precisely the interface of platform and train platform interface. Therefore, I decided this could be a topical issue and I could elaborate on it. Actually, let's plunge into the topic itself. A platform, the definition of a platform is a station zone where passengers alight from the train or board the train. There is a offset of the platform compared to the tracks, and these are the two parameters of infrastructure TSIs. Other parameters concerning this facility are defined in TSI persons with reduced mobility. A platform should be accessible. The most common case is a pedestrian overpass or a pedestrian crossing by means of steps or not. There could be also a lift. There are some exceptions where the access to the platform is done at the one end of the platform using a ramp. But this could be a conflict point of crossing. So this this case is still not fully clarified in terms of pedestrian crossing at this conflict point. If we have people with impaired vision or reduced mobility. Apart from access, there is a requirement of a safe zone, and there should be a note that passengers could be affected by the aerodynamic effect of a passing train. So there should be a tactile marking, a strip, tactile strip. There are other requirements whenever possible. Passengers should wait for trains seated, and there should be a space for wheelchairs. On the platform there must be visual information and in general information about incoming and outgoing trains, inbound and outbound trains, and this information should be also linked to the tactile marking so that disabled people have proper access. There is another requirement which is somewhat neglected. These are boarding aids stored on platforms and also ramps and lifts. They are a constituent of interoperability and therefore subject to requirements. And there should be proper lighting too. And this is defined in a standard which is part of the TSI. Of course, lighting should be present everywhere on the platform. We've had a case where a project for new lighting of a platform somehow missed out the lighting which should be present in a
трябва да има като елементи на перона и как с тях той се
lighting which should be part of a covered area, one covered area of the platform. The individual requirements, well, I have pointed out first visual information. In the TSI reads that information about train schedule, including destination, intermediary stations, a number of the platform and time, must be accessible and appropriate for reading at the height of 160 centimeters, at least in one spot of the station. In one of the working groups, we discussed the case of the information about train movement being presented by means of a QR code that should be scanned to get the train schedule. So there was discussion whether this was acceptable or not in terms of interoperability. Well, of course, technology can be a great contributor, but it is generally accepted that any information on the platform should be accessible by all users, not only people who have smartphones with internet connection. In Bulgaria, the information on platforms is usually displayed on large screens with the times, the schedule of inbound and outbound trains. The good practices are to use either displays, screens, or other types of displays giving all elements of the needed information. Danger zone. There was a study about the perception of a danger zone by most countries. You can see that different member states or different countries, different responding countries, define danger zones, this danger zone in a different way. Not only in terms of an offset, but also the way of measurement. In Italy, for example, this measurement is taken from the internal side of the track, while in Belgium from the external side of the track. So there are different practices, and this danger zone starts from the edge of on the track side of the platform, and is defined as the space where passengers are not allowed to stand during arrival or transition of trains. The border of this danger zone should be visually marked by different guiding markings. When a combination of guiding markings is used, it's clear that passengers should not go to the danger zone, but when we use a combination of tactile marking and others, the question arises whether a person is in the danger zone or not. So these two questions were raised during the meetings of the working groups, and this was registered in the discussions of our working groups, the ERA working groups. So this issue about interface, platform train interface, will still be considered by the working groups for better definition or more precise considerations. This is a chart also provided by ERA, also discussed during the working during the discussions of the working group on the change of this interface. You can see how varied the height of platforms in different countries is. These are it is admissible for a member state to have this height and still be interoperable. Of course, there is a maximum permitted height. In Bulgaria too. So in the Bulgarian figure, as you can see, is 1,100. Whenever a new platform is constructed, the nominal height should be observed. So I took the effort on this slide to check the speed train from Plovdiv to Burgas. It's less than 300 kilometers long and part of TEN-T network. So I wanted to check the height and offset of the platforms along this route. And you can see how varied the values are. These are the railway stations where the speed train calls the right-hand side chart shows the maximum permitted height and offset based on past studies of the TSI. This is the safe gap between the platform and the floor of the train. The maximum gap is in yellow. So when it's dark or the platform is not lighted, there should be additional measures to ensure the safe gap. So, given these various dimensions, you understand yourselves that the issue of rolling stock is complex. There is no rolling stock that can actually meet all these various dimensions and at the same time provide safety of the gap. And the decision is the presence of these under platform ramps or lifts that could ensure interoperability. They should have a declaration for being a constituent part. There is an example I want to give you of platform which is interoperable. It has all features that are required, including for persons with reduced mobility, aiding devices for boarding or a train and so on, a place for wheelchairs and so on and so forth. But there is no good interface at the level of information awareness between the platform and the train. If there is no such good interface, if there is no such good communication, we risk that even with a fully compliant platform, there could be issues. So people should be perfectly aware where to stand, I mean people with reduced mobility, where to stand in order to board the train. So the awareness of passengers and the information provided to them on the platform about train movement, about the types of cars, rail cars that are available, and where the wheelchair could board the train are very important. And finally, I have put two examples of platforms with TSI and a platform without TSI that is applied to it. These are not perfect situations, but the main difference between the two is that the first type of platforms have been implemented with EU funding, while the other platforms are under projects which are nationally funded. And the application of interoperability in the second case is sometimes a bit ignored. The main conclusions here are based on our experience so far about TS interoperability requirements are the following. Interoperability should be mandatory for any project, but also the opportunities given by the legal framework should be directed at better railway service, because the ultimate goal is a better rail transport service. We should focus on the application of requirements, and the other conclusion is that the railway system should be considered holistically, not in terms of individual parts. There could be interoperable subsystems, but if the overall railway system is not functioning, then the ultimate result will be unsatisfactory. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Mirchev. The problem he discussed is specific, but all is related to the safety of passengers. And I would like to thank you to the colleagues from TINSA, this company, because we have a perfect partner relationship. I accept the note that we do not follow always the algorithm for assessment of the compliance, but we are striving to it. Thank you. And the last report of our second session will be made by Mr. Markus Bolli, consultant from the Suprexa company. New role, new reality. How the increasing digitalization requires new roles and new rules.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello guys, thank you very much that I can be here. I feel a little bit like an alien at the moment. It could be because in the beginning we start the discussion, we see a map of Europe. It was dark green or blue, I cannot remember exactly. And then you see a small little white spot, and that is Switzerland. Me, I come from Switzerland, and so I'm sorry, I'm not a part of the European community. Before I start my speech, can you maybe be so polite and do something for me? You can agree with that? Doing something for me, please stand up. Before you fell down in the coma, stand up, look to your opposite person and shake the hand and say, hey, thank you very much to be here. And you go opposite and say, thank you very much to be here. Thank you. So you have your attention not only in your deep soul, you have your attention on your ear and on your brain. Thank you. Sit down, please. So, let's start. Welcome. And, there should be. Yeah. I will talk about new role and new reality. This is associated to my good friend and mentor from the MIT in America, John O. Burdett. We realize in the 90s, when we go in the digitalization, it's very complicated to do the technical side, but it's quite impossible to change the society. Because digitalization at last needs new rules and new roles and how to handling that. It's not just a step more in the same procedure in the past, it is really a new world we talk about. Before I go deeper, give me the chance to show you who I am. At last, my name is Markus Bolli, and I'm a big Lego fan. You will find out why. And on the opposite, I'm a designer for airplane and special vehicles over than 20 years. And then I was a co-founder of the Kobo Economic Philosophy. And at last, I'm an organization developer. So 2004, the Minister of Transport in Switzerland comes to me by a private session and ask me, listen, we have a problem by the Lötschberg tunnel. It's so difficult, we cannot bring the people together in one place that they start to exchange their wiseness and the knowing. Especially also there are so different cultures. The electric people do not understand the tunneling people, the tunnel people do not understand the construction people, and the construction people do not understand the operational rules of a railway. That's why he was asked me, can you find us a solution to reform the organization that we can start to talk together? So the topics in railway, I make for the ETCS IOP SBB. So I was one of the first IOP manager in Europe, and that was really a good chance for me to come in this really great area of railway organizations. And so I make the regulation of the EN 50/126, the RAMS perspectives, and the V model, and stuff like that, that we can start to work together. I also was one of the people in the Gotthard tunnel with my colleagues. They're already here, George Brücker, and of course Daniel. And on the way, I was also a member of the group Smart Rail 4, for the Swiss Railway Company, and I bring the first ATO, regular ATO level 2, GOA 2 on a ETCS track in Switzerland. So you can read that also in internet or something like that, doesn't matter. It's not so important. What I like to talk about is these steps of industrial revolution of the last 100 years. So I don't like to talk about the TSIs and the stuffs we have before from the era, the organizations, because we was in a very, very comfort zone. 2004, we can do what we want. Because ERA was not so strong established at the moment, and we do not have the TSIs. We found the TSIs. We talk about 530 functional clusters by ETCS programming, and we find out with 40 we can drive safe. More we don't need. This was the beginning. So the reflection of these steps is very important to understand when I talk about digitalization. When I see a company like a bank, USB bank in Switzerland, something like that, they really believe they are in a digitalization area. They are not. Still, when it's a huge computing system, it's just here on the level 3, it's a microelectronics. Digitalization is much bigger. So we come to that. Okay? Here. I pressed the wrong button. Yeah, not only by railways. It works. Okay. So we deal with words. So we have many different languages. We get the ear knock here that we can have the translation, and we try to following what the people are talking. But you see, it's very, very tricky because one word can have different meanings. Look at the word process. When you look at it in the chemistry, it's absolutely different than in the system engineering, and absolutely different to a lawyer. So it needs references and almost contexts. We talk about TSI in railway, in rolling stock, in stuffs like that. And then we have to translate it, what you understand with this word, not what I say with that word. And that's why, give me a chance to word clarification, science versus believing, and the other side, complicate versus complexity. My students often say, yes, complexity is just a little bit more than difficult. It's not. By the way, for me, the most stupid sentence you can say is, I believe in science. You can believe in something, or you practice science. Okay? But to believe in science is a contradiction. It makes no sense. We know or we do not know. So we have the basics of cybernetics from Mr. Ashby and Wiener and a lot of other authors. You can see that and read that in the papers you became from this event, and it's not necessary to talk more about that. Just one is the law of Ashby. It's very interesting. The variosity of a system is the variosity of the methods you can control the system. It's important to know that behind it. I try to explain you what is difficult, what is simple, what is complex and hyper-complex with a cup of coffee. Nothing in the system is more complex than to bring a cup of coffee on the table. Let me show that. The solution to enjoying coffee is very simple. I do it every day, many times, 20, 25 times. And to prepare the coffee is also very simple. When I have a good machine or I have a good service personnel outside there, I give them a coin, he gives me a coffee. But when I widen my perspective and say, okay, I will integrate it also the coffee machine, it really comes to be complicated. But still not complex. It's still complicated. Now I go one step more and say, oh, I need energy, I need the cultivation of the coffee beans, I need the international contracts for coffee beans, because to get a good creamer on a coffee, you need a coffee bean from each part of the world, from South America, Africa, Asia, and so on. That's very difficult, because almost international contracts you need is with countries with difficult cultural understanding for business. However, and then I go the next step and say, okay, I need the CO2 footprint. I have to look end to end. Then it really becomes too hyper complex. I will show you that a little bit. This is a model of a complex system. You see the points, the orange points, okay? You see the black lines, there are the relations. In the wording of cybernetics, we just have objects, subjects, and relations in the first level. The second level, we have objects, subjects, relations, and the variosity of objects, subjects, and relations. So you fix now this system, and you see the blue point. On the blue point, you see also the red lines. That are the directly dimensions and directly relations. But now in a complex system, I not only have the surface, I have also the room, the space. So every point is connected with the other point directly. And so now we go to the hypercomplexity. You get the point here, the blue one? You get it? Okay, show it, observe it. That was a hypercomplex system. You see the hypercomplexity, you come in the dimension of Heisenberg. You can say what the system is or what the system does, but you cannot say the same in the same time. You can say what the tunnel works or should work, or you can observe it how it works. And when it doesn't work, you have an accident, as last year in the Gotthard tunnel. However, we need in our systems, especially by TSIs, and especially in the different cultures we have in Europe or the whole world, China works with the same system, by the way, we need an end-to-end perspective to can find the right solution. With a singular perspective, you can find a solution, but you have not a warranty the solution will work. This is the main idea of interoperability. So, for an example, a one-dimensional problem is making a budget. You can calculate it, it's deterministic, simple. Then we go, we make a planning of a rollout of a software. Oh, that is complicated. When you have more than 4,500 servers, it's a heavy work to do that. And the next step is analysis of a market situation. This is the complexest situation, and it is three-dimensional. And at last, we have the hyper-complex problem, is the safety approval of the Gotthard tunnel over all environments, inclusive the persons. So when we go back, how we can handling hyper-complexity, almost what I find out when I have a speech, also by my students, is they ignore it. It could not be what I don't see. That's wrong. So at last week I was in a meeting by the Swiss Railway Company, and there comes a good friend of mine and say, listen, the approval process we have to make more simple. Say, sorry, that's stupid. Because the system we try to approve is hyper-complex. In this case, the method have to be hyper-complex too. There is no way you can make it easier. What you can make easier is the huge number of data to handling it digital. For an example, by the Lötschberg tunnel, we have to handling 15,000 technical documents to approve the Lötschberg tunnel. 15,000, and each document have reference list about 50 and 120 other technical documents and regulations. And then we say, oh, that is huge, it's too big. So we do it with a semi-manual system. We do it with Excel and databases and stuff like that, and it's harder work to do that. And they say, never again, never again. You cannot handle this kind of information semi-manual. But then comes the Gotthard tunnel. We have documents, about 250,000 technical documents with 200 reference documents in each, and they try it again, do it semi-manual, and it still not works. by the way. So all the approval reports we have, at last, when they are built semi-manual, you can be sure you have too much mistakes inside the documents that it is so proof that you can go to a judge. However, we can do it. So we have first the acceleration. We have the flying cube. We bring the icosaeder in one position that we can start to study what it means. And when we do a technical size, we make a network. All the objects and the subjects and the relations, we find out it. The next step is we relate it to the processes. What is the consequence there? Then we identified all the variability of the objects, and then we look how it works in the interaction with the organization. It's a huge work, yes. Still, to find out all this data, you need a huge ICT system. You cannot do it by hand. The next one, we make functional clusters with essential processes are proceed by essential processor, Germans, I'm sorry, Swiss German. And then it's interacting also with the data banks. And at last we make Petri nets, and with the Petri nets we have a mathematical one-to-one relation, and then it works to make a programming, and when we have the program, we applying the program to the front-end solution, and you can do it on the board. That's the way to do it in the digitalization 4.0. Give me the chance to transport this idea to the complexity of railway system. You see, we talk about ETCS. This is definitely simple. The Ballis is simple. It's really just a lot of epoxy hearts, and inside a small little bit electronic. Then we have the computer. This is the computer standard. It's based by 1999 by SPS programming and stuff like that. We have here the onboard for the driver, the DMI systems. Yes, simple. Here we have the radar. Radar is working the last 60 years. It's nothing special new. Then we have the interaction between the EVC, the OBU, the RBC, and the ballises in the radio block center. Yes, that is complicated. And then we have the GSMR transmitter over the line, and all working together. It's complicated. I agree with that. And then when we go the next step and we look how it works, the regulation by ATO. So we have the automatic train protection. It's ETCS level 2 in this case. And then we have the TSI for ATO. And you see both systems are exactly in a separated area. So this is complex. All this different interaction we have is complex. And now we have few factors of influences, very high dynamics and much interactions, and then we comes in the hypercomplexity. So the processes is the TMS, traffic management system. They find out what the train should do, where he should do, and in what limit he's doing. And then he sent the information to the RBC to the EVC by radio, and the driver knows on the DMI what he have to do. With the yellow point, he have to be there inside, and then it gets an alert or whatever. Now we do ATO and say, okay, I have already the digital information from the TMS of the line, the trackside, and also I have the schedule and the order of the production where the train should be. I have this digital signature, so I make two files. We tell them segment file and journey file, and then we generate it in the ATO trackside, and then we send it to the ATO onboard. And what this calculate now a new curve of a perfect driving, and we're blending out the DMI and the joystick, and the machine do them by themselves. And this is a new role. The driver do not drive anymore, he's just a controller, the supervisor of the system. But no doubt, you see here, the TMS, this is the intelligence, this is the logical, this is the brain. And the ATO is just a stupid transmitter, if you do it right, by the way. So now we go in the hypercomplexity. We have many factors, extremely high dynamics and extremely high interaction, and this is an organigram, a network organigram of all stakeholders by ITO. And it's not completed. We stopped it, by the way, it was in the working group, and you see that it is huge and you cannot control it. When you think you have fixed that fact, and you look to the next fact, you can be sure until the time you fix this fact is changed. That's normal. Your heavy hard work by the era. Okay, new time, new role, complexity and reflection of these steps. Let's have a bigger view about the history of that. You see, I start by the Reformation. The Reformation and the printing of the Bible and the translation of the Bible. This was the first TSI for the European community. It comes next, the farmers, they can read in the Bible, ooh, it's not ordered by a God that I should be poor, and the high-level people could be rich. And that's why we have the Farmer Revolution, 1524. The next was the Reformation war for 30 years in Europe. 30 years, it's unbelievable, war. And then we have the Peace of Westphalen. And now, as we are here, we think, oh, after 30 years, war, never again. Never, never, never again. Unfortunately, no. You see, the 18th century was full with local wars everywhere. It stops a little bit with the American Revolution, then comes the French Revolution, and 80 years later comes the Russian Revolution, then comes the First War, the Second War, and still, you see, it's depends when we change the information rules. Then we go on the next level. Now we have the imperial war between East and West, economical size, and of course, unfortunately, in your neighborhood, that's a mess. We still have wars on the battlefield, if also when the battlefield is in the cyberspace. However, at last, the wars always have only one argument. Whatever the flag is, whatever the name is of the war, at last, there is a group they like to have, and another group they don't like to share. Okay. But I don't like to make history, I like to show you that with information systems, because the TSI, ETCS, and all this is basically, yes, it is also a physical theme, construction themes, but at last it's just how I deal with information. Actually, we are on this level. We use microelectronics and IT automation systems, and we should be here. We should have a regeneration economic system with planetary limits inside there. We should be there, but we are not. When you see that in this last 100 years, we make the documentation with a pencil, then with a typewriter, then an electric typewriter, then we have the personal computer, and we print out it and we save it on the paper. So what we have done is Kaizen. We do the same thing, but we do it better. Okay? But it's Kaizen, no more. We have here the primacy of property, the primacy of production, and the primacy of the market. And now we should be in the Industry 4. Industry 4 means we make new things in a new way. What that means exactly? Between these two worlds, it's in renewal and it's innovation. On this side, in investment. The left side is very easy to do it. You can calculate it. It's the deterministic universe. The right side is innovation. Innovation is always project, high risk. You cannot calculate. You can have a wish how the project should work, but you have no warranty at last.
So, okay. New paradigms needs new methods. That's very important to know that. So in the past, we have dealt with many sequential progress in the projects. Now we should go in a multiple incremental, circular, evolutionary, iterative procedure. That sounds very basic. When I learned it the first time, I say, oh, that's mad. But it's really, on the left side, Industry 3, and there, Industry 4.0, and it sounds really like science fiction. Is it? No, ladies and gentlemen, it's not science fiction. In the 80s, in the last century, already all these system regulations and basic system knowing is already done by universities. This is a model of the University of St. Gallen, together with Birmingham, together with the people from the Cybernetic Society. And also, 2006, I got the privilege to come to the UNISIC there, it was the UNISIC, to show them how a closed circulation information system is working and how we can establish that in Europe, that we only do for each system one approval process. When I have a rolling stock and it is approved in the Netherlands, the system shows me what is the gap from the national values in Germany. And only this small little gap I have to approve again. When I go to Austria, it's maybe 2-3 functional more I have to approve. And this is system-based because there's so many informations you have to deal with when you make an approval process by ETCS. And of course, the idea was everybody works in the cloud, everybody have a free connection to the data, and we can proceed this data. That was the vision, 2006. It's 20 years ago. And what's happened? Nothing. Nothing. Still the work with PCs, still the work with Excel, still the work with small little isolated databases. Anyway, is it trackside? Anyway, is it rolling stock? For me, I'm an old man, 70 years old. And for me, the progress, that 20 years, nothing happened in this direction, makes me a little bit sad. Because we talk about a 200 milliard budget Europe just for approval documents. I know a deliverer of rolling stock, we have 60 FTEs just to work in papers, to make approval documents for rolling stock. 60 persons, just one company, not worldwide, just one company. Okay, however, yeah, new perspective. Okay, you see the traditional testing for a brake system, just as a metaphor, it's not complete, I'm sorry. You make a singular test, a verification, and so on, and you do it. And now in the new world, it's a huge perspective. It's not enough to make the braking test. You have to give the warranty also in the release speed. The stopping point is before the danger point. And when you go read in the specification of ETCS, the system allowed to overrun the danger point. So it's a difficult approach to do that. Just in this case, you have to involve the TMS, the RBCs, and all the environments, and especially the surrounding. The surrounding is also the temperature. What do you think? We go in the beginning of the Gotthard tunnel, we have minus 15 degrees by 250 speed. It's really cold, the train. It goes in the tunnel, and after 1 kilometer has 45 degrees plus. And the material have to control that, and it has to work in any situation. But it's not only technical sites, it's also the buildings. How you can guarantee also the cyber security when the lock by the door is not safe? Everybody can go in, can penetrate by the system or what else. However, The operating processes, you see, they are related to standards, law, international contracts, Fahrdienstvorschrift, driving regulations, and performance agreements. That is the normal world, how we design a line or the production in a railway organization. But this is not enough. We should have the demography, the topology, the topography, the geography, and the geology by themselves also to involve. And if you see this causality there, you can say, if the geology is diverse, the operating processes have to be diverse too. So it makes no sense when you look end to end to try to harmonization of the procedures. Every part in the country have different geological rules, and that's why they have to order environment and to respect other rules to do that. However, I will show you that in a limited perspective of vehicles. You see there an old diesel, of course in Lego, and in electromobility. And when I look at simple, from the gasoline station and also from the electro power station, then I'd be quite sure that the CO2 footprint by the electric car is better. I believe in that. I haven't calculated myself. But when I look at end to end, what I do here in Africa, I know there are kid works, the children. There are Suprexa organization, the sport and so on. And then I look this line and I make an end-to-end calculation. It could be, I do not know it, it could be that the diesel, the classic diesel, have the better footprint. What I will say with that is not, we should more speculate it. We need end-to-end transparent data basics that we can find a solution how we have to work. So remember, what is better, the ecological footprint of a yogurt in a glass or in a plastic box? The plastic box is more ecological. It's found out by the Club of Rome 1978. However, we go back here to our coffee, so we need the end-to-end perspective, especially when we look for ATO. Because ATO, we have the order by Smart Rail 4 to find out, is the TSI good enough to produce a solution with ATO, with ATCS? And the answer is yes. Do we have anyone, economical, basic, science, knowing about this fact? Nobody knows what is the added value for a society or for a company when you make ATO. We have a lot of speculations, a lot of aid. Say, oh yeah, we can kill prisoners. No, don't believe that. It's not true. I do that in the bank, 1999 and 2004, we know it. We have 4,500 people in the surrounding of Zurich, and after the digitalization, we have also 4,500 people, but other people. No bankers, now we have IT engineers. But we don't care money, definitely. So, what is my individual role? What are my preferences? Yours, personally. That's a question to you. It is really like walking in the mountains. You see, Austria say we have a lot of mountains. Switzerland, we have a lot of mountains too. The same Alps. And third, you have many factors of influences. You have extreme high dynamics and extreme high interaction when you go on the mountains. So you should be prepared. This is the RAMS analysis. You have to control your risks. And then the conclusion is, if we will find solutions, we need not determinism, not goals, we need variables. When we have in the TSI, we discuss about variables. You have any possibilities to find right solutions. When I send you to go in the forest to hunt a deer, you go there in the forest, you hunt the deer, maybe, but my experience is you never find a deer, because the deer smells you 10 kilometers before you see the deer, so you cannot hunt it. only in the autumn, then it works. What it means, but when I give you the order, bring food, you see? So I talk about not a target, I talk about possibilities and variables. Food could be everything. Fish, mushrooms, corns, what else? So it's more easy. So also we have to discuss redefine culture, how we can change this big, huge, established organization of railways. It's very, very difficult to change it, but we need a change. When we will use modern technology, we need to change the organization in the same way. So for an example, trackside is ordering we drive ETCS. Why? Because it's modern, yes. And it's cool, yes, I believe that. I'm a techno freak. But what's about EVU? What is EVU in English? Huh? Yeah, the railway undertaking, that's with them. So you are a small cargo freight undertaking company, and I ordering to you, spend out 600,000 euros for a signaling system that is allowed on the track, and they say, oh, then I'm bankrupt. Is that a fair deal? At last, we talk about the society, we need mobility. Okay, so we need also to find new solution for the economical aspects and the laws. So, you see, in all these 25 years I worked together with railways, I find really perfect goals, science, technology, management, administration, and supervisors. And genius people, absolutely genius people. When I was beginning 2006, I say then, 2004, sorry, there was not even 1 week, I have minimum, between 2 and 4 shock phases. What you doing there? Are you crazy? In all aspects, electric power, physical effects, radius, and all these stuffs, they go to the limit. Yeah, they go, thank you very much. They go to the limit in every aspect. So this side was perfect, but I think for the new time we need also instruction, social affairs, researching, and entrepreneurship. Deterministic goals, list of variables, and there is not the question, I have to change the organization. That's not true. I should have the question, who is the boss? You see, by an opera, you make an opera, a concert, maybe you have 50 people there that can play the instruments. They are experts. Definitely the best of the best of the best. But the conductor, they have to understand the mind of the composer. Only him. They should be on the right hand, and the rest, the musician, should be on the left hand. However, the facet is, ask yourself, are you the right person in the right role, or can I change it, or can I progress as my organization to make an open mindset? So, by the mindset, the benefit which could turn out from the 4th industrial revolution can carry out only with a solid cultural change of values, perceptions, and change of mindset. It's not from me. It's from the ladies Hoffmann and Baruetto in the book Das Design humaner Unternehmen. And so I thank you very much for your attention. So I talk, hopefully I can touch your heart a little bit, that you go in an open mindset, also go in a deep discussion with your colleagues and find out where is the new limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bolli, for this interesting, comprehensive and very attractive presentation. Colleagues, we are behind schedule, but we'll have a Q&A session anyway. We have Hermann Schmittendorf among us, who records our conference for a German publication of the German Association of Engineers, of Railway Engineers. So there are also many booklets and leaflets outside, and this event is covered by him and by this organization, so it is an honor. Do you have questions now? You might be tired by now. I don't see questions. We are behind schedule a bit.
Bolli, for a very interesting presentation. I just have a question with regard to your, I think, slide 17 or 18, where you are listing the various stages of the industrial revolutions. What does make you think that the fifth industrial revolution will be on the circular economy?
Okay. It's a very, very interesting question. Yeah. When we start with this slide, many years ago, we have just the 4 steps. I agree absolutely with that. This is the common sense with the 4 levels. Why the 5th? It starts with the law in Switzerland, where we have the Article 964b, and this says every concern, every company have to prove all the non-financial aspects of the company, especially CO2 footprint, circular economic aspects, and social fairness. That's very important. And what you're doing against the corruptions. And I think these are very, very important issues. My personally issue in this case is how we can survive. I have grandkids. And when I see millions of tons of plastics in the ocean, it makes me crazy. In 2 aspects. And one is it's destroy our nation, it's destroy our national resources, and at last it's resources. It's much more cheap to gain the plastic, to reform it, to make a new product, than to make new plastic by raw oil, because it's a shorter process. And that's why we start to think about what should be the next step. The next steps should be the primacy of nature. The nature should show us, the nature should educate us. I'm having to think about technology. I can bring the water high in the mountain. It's more easy to follow the water that comes down of the mountain to use it in a good way. And that should change the mindset, because I'm a kid of the 50s, very old, I'm sorry, and there we believe in engineering. We can do everything. We can fly to the moon. We can do everything by engineering. But we forgot to listen to the nature, what they tell us. You see, when you have the right composition of plants on a field, you don't need chemical stuffs to have a good grain. It's the combination of the nature. The nature have already inside, inherent, the perfect processes. As we human are, you see, we are perfect. Why? Why I'm so sure that we are perfect? We are the result of 2.5 million evolution. It could be not a mistake. And that's why that was our idea, to have the 5th levels. And I'm really pretty sure when I do not have the end-to-end perspectives about anything that I like to change, it could be the wrong decision. In the past, 20 years ago, it doesn't matter. 30 years ago, I changed my oil by my car on the field. That was common using. And then we remark, oh, it's destroy our groundwater. And then we change our mind. And the next step is, I think, first we need the digitalization that we can handling the big data. The big data is for me an absolutely free cloud, like Wikipedia. You see, the autopoietic principle from Wikipedia, it's controlled by themselves. It will better by every user, it comes to be better. And this is the solid database we need to say, okay, I will change that, what I should do. And then I can involve not only my small little perspective of a forest, I can have the big perspective and so on. And then that's why we create the 5th level. There we should go. Is that answer good for you? We can do it by the coffee.
I just have one sub-question, if I may. If we go to the history in the slide that you've shown, with the 4 previous revolutions we've had, the entry to coal, the entry to electricity, the IT, the artificial intelligence, they're all become universal. What is your thinking about the 5th being the circular economy revolution becoming universal as well? I think we in Europe are leading in that way, probably justifiably so, but we do not live on our own. We have other partners in the world, so to speak, who probably would not agree that that is going to be the 5th industrial revolution. You have an observation to make on that? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I think, yeah. So you see, I come from Switzerland, and Switzerland are bloody bastards. You know that? We have 4 languages, and we have to learn to respect each other. Okay? We go around the world, and every king in the last century, have a Swiss guard. Today, only the Pope in Rome have a Swiss guard. What I mean is, we are able to learn. We are able, and I think that the best ability we have as humans beings is we are able to collaborate. Collaboration means I have a competitor. You are my competitor on the market with women's, on the market on business, and so on. But we can come together and know 1 and 1 is more than 2, because we are able for collaboration. And I think that the step between is where I should find a solution. I should not find a solution somewhere in a high central system. I don't believe in that. I'm a Swiss one. You see, I'm really an Appenzeller, and so it's an insider joke. As an Appenzeller, when I was in the army and we make exercises, it was absolutely forbidden for us to bring Zurich people. The Stadt, he's status man. The soldiers from the Zurich city together with the Appenzeller Grenadiers, because then they really fight, and we have to bring the people in the hospital. So big different cultures. But if now comes, a German one, and attack us because we have a strange language, you don't believe how close Zurich and Appenzell people could be. And that is what I mean, is I think we should find a solution where the problem exists. And you know, Switzerland, we have 8 billion people on the earth, and only 8 million have the privilege of Volksgesetzgebung. And that means we have a framework in our nation, but the solution is found in my village. Because the problem is existing in my village. And the major of the village is not the king. The major of the village is our main administrator of my business and my money. And he has to ask me, should we change the sport hall because it's old or something like that? And then we say yes. And with my yes, I allowed him to use my money by tax. And it's not centralized by the nation in Bern, and they try sometimes to do that. But you have never chance in Appenzell to do that. For local dimensions, we still vote by hand. Is that an answer? I think with more democracy, with more exchange between the people that problem know exactly, we can change the world to make a better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a really interesting discussion. Any other questions, please? If you feel tired, it's probably time for a coffee break. So let's convene in 20 minutes time. I know that the agenda reads half an hour, but let's come back in 20 minutes time so that we have time for the afternoon session and show respect for the other speakers.